other questions of Dr. Jaishankar, of Prime Minister Modi, but this sort of takes it in a slightly more, how should one put it, politically.
I mean, it's a needless
space. It's also, it's not just needless. I think there is a particular logic behind all of this. One gets the sense that the Congress party feels politically insecure of...
or they made the calculation that it could be politically profitable for them to do
perhaps.
This.
But where does this come from is what I can't understand.
What is interesting is, Rahul, and we've been talking about this, right, in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor, one of the things that we saw, at least at the level of the Congress party's leadership, Rahul Gandhi, Mr. Kharge, etc., at least for public consumption, whatever they were saying to the public on record was, we're with the government, whatever action the government chooses to take, we are with the government on that. We don't have any quibble. Of course, lower level leaders like your Rashid Alvis and the others of the world were pointing out discordant notes. Something has changed in that, and I think it started with what happened over the weekend, where Rahul Gandhi decided to tweet what the External Affairs Minister had said a day before that and asked him, why did you inform Pakistan, or who informed Pakistan, and how many assets did we lose because of that? Now, the point is that's been clarified by the MEA, it's been clarified by the minister, the ministry also, but somehow Rahul Gandhi is doubling down on that message, saying that why did the External Affairs Minister inform Pakistan? And now today what the Congress President, Mr. Kharge, has said, again, like you said, trivializing this whole operation, should put Operation Hua Hai. It's not a chut-put thing. I mean, you've hit 9 terror targets, some of them deep inside Pakistani Punjab. It's not a small thing.
You've changed the rules of engagement, military engagement between nuclear dyads. I mean, that in itself.
And you can't call that a chut-put operation. So somewhere I think the leadership of the Congress party seems to have made this political calculation. As you said, either they were feeling like they were giving too much of a free pass to the Modi government, and the Modi government was walking away with the political sort of benefits or dividends of this, or they feel like they can poke holes in some of the things that have been put out by the government's version of events, or the government's narrative of events. But I don't see this politically benefiting the Congress party. And I'm just going back to evidence of what we saw in Balakot, right after the 2019 Balakot strike, and that was in the middle of the heightened rhetoric of the campaign, the 2019 general election campaign. And again, Rahul Gandhi made the same mistake. He said, where's the proof? We seem to have hit a bunch of trees. The problem is, the moment the leader of the opposition starts making those kinds of comments, the Pakistani press picks it up and the Pakistani political establishment picks it up. I'm sure Mr. Kharge's comments have already gone viral in Pakistani social media. That becomes a problem for the Congress to try and defend.
I think, speaking to a large number of people within the BJP also, there was a feeling initially that perhaps there was a certain pushback from the public. The decision to suddenly halt has not been sort of accepted widely. And there has been, of course, an effort after that. I mean, the Prime Minister came out and gave a whole speech, not once but twice, to try and explain to the public that was really their outreach. And of course, you've had the RM, you've had now visits to various forward bases, and those are the pictures of Mr. Modi himself at Adampur, which was, of course... so I think there has been at some level, some apprehensions within the BJP that perhaps the people felt that this was a sign of India backing off. Now, the question is, and that's what the Congress is sort of trying to hit at, is at whose behest did we back off? So I think that's really, as you were saying, the Congress is perhaps sensing there is an opportunity to score some political points. But how far do you think they're going to go?
Well, looks like they've made that concerted call, because I thought initially when Rahul Gandhi tweeted what he did over the weekend, and then there was a clarification subsequently by the minister and the ministry, I thought he would back off. But yesterday again he doubled down on that same message. And today now you have the Congress president, effectively saying, trivializing the Operation Sindoor, which, I don't think any political party should try to trivialize it, because, as you said, India is now drawing a new doctrine. New security doctrine as far as these terror attacks are concerned. It's drawing new red lines as far as these attacks are concerned in terms of what India's security response will be. But the point is to trivialize it or to try and poke holes. I'm not saying any of these questions are not legitimate. I mean, in a democracy, it is a legitimate question to ask and the answer to be sought for how many air assets did we lose. But there is a time and place for asking that question, and there is certainly a time and place for the answer of that question to be.
In fact,
to be,
a BJP
delivered.
senior leader tweeted back to Rahul Gandhi in a sort of first-person tone and said that, look, we don't have a problem if these questions are posed to us, but pose them in the right fora.
Yeah.
Ask them in these sort of briefings.
Correct.
Or ask them in an all-party sort of meeting, etc., etc. We don't have a problem. But if you take to Twitter, you basically give Pakistan the bragging rights to say that, look, they lost a lot more. Because that's really what Pakistan has been trying to do, hasn't it, over the last few weeks? It's been trying to suggest that it's come away as the victor.
And I suspect somewhere Rahul Gandhi wants to prove and go back to his 2019, theme and that whole familiar attack line that he had in 2019, that there's a problem with the Rafales, right? So somehow he wants to justify that, look, if India has lost some air assets, if India has lost some Rafales, then it justifies what he was doing about through the campaign of 2019.
Yeah.
I think that's trying to retrofit something that you went to the people with, and whether you like it or not, the people rejected that narrative, right? That whole business about Chaukidar Chor Hain, it went up to the Supreme Court. So both in the People's Court and in the Supreme Court, that narrative got rejected. Those allegations got shelved away. But the point is, I think Rahul Gandhi somewhere down the line feels like, at least in his political calculus, that is an unfinished agenda. That's an unfinished business for him. And he's now trying to retrofit back to that campaign, if he can prove and if he can get the government to say that, yes, we did lose some air assets.
So if you were sort of a strategist at the Congress party, you would obviously be wanting to exploit what many people say is a bit of dissonance with regards to decision, ceasefire, but where would you want it to materialize, the benefit for you? Probably in the Bihar elections.
Yeah, which is still a fair distance away, right? I mean, it's about 7-8 months away, and anything can happen between, they say a week is a long time in politics, 7 months is like an eternity. So again, I'm not sure about where the Congress party sees the political dividends of this line of attack sort of bearing fruit, if at all it will bear fruit. I don't think it will. From the government's point of view, I think they are hitting back saying that, look, you are giving a handle to Pakistan,
In fact, the BJP has come up with this poster, which has half Rahul Gandhi's visage and half of Munir's visage, and they sort of blend them together, which now, of course, Jairam Ramesh and others have come out and said they're going to be suing the BJP IT cell head, Amit Malviya. Do you think the BJP will once again be able to box the Congress into a bit of a corner where they constantly want to seem to suggest that the Congress party is an apologist for Pakistan? I don't know if we should actually now be showing that poster, because if Jairam Ramesh is thinking of taking legal action, he might say that this
Congress,
is vicarious.
I think Mr. Khera sort of put out his own sort of spin to it, showing Mr. Jaishankar and Mr. Modi, and there you go,
there it is,
modern day Jai Chand. Again, it says something of our political discourse if political opponents are being referred to as Jai Chands and Mir Jafars. I don't think that sits well, particularly on an important issue like national security. I mean, there should be a degree of consensus when it comes to national security. Like I said, some of these questions are valid, but there is a time and place to ask those questions and seek those answers, whether it is in closed door, all party meetings or closed door briefings by the Foreign Secretary. Please ask those questions. I believe he was asked that question yesterday. And he said that, look, it's not my place to be answering this. It has to come from the Indian Air Force. So if there are, let's say, for example, meetings of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Defence, and I'm sure there will be one, that's where you ask this question. It's a legitimate question to ask.
Rahul Gandhi is a member of that committee.
He's a member of that committee as well. It's a legitimate question to ask. But to go up on Twitter on a Saturday evening and, take something that the External Affairs Minister has said, which he clearly has come out and clarified, and the Ministry has come out and clarified. And I believe if you go back to the press conference of the ADG, the Army and Navy and Air Force operations, DGMOs who came out and said, I believe the DGMO also said the same thing, that we tried contacting the Pakistani DGMO immediately after Operation Sindoor. He refused to take the call, and there is a military log that goes. It's a matter of record. It's like sending a telegram across to the other side that, look, we've hit these targets. These are all terror infrastructure as we see it.
So let's broaden this, because will the trivialization of the political discourse around Operation Sindoor hamper the efforts that are now being made by the Modi government when it has sent this whole delegation of what one can only call ambassadors, unofficial ambassadors to various world capitals, and there are a significant number of countries that we're going to be hitting. Now, these teams, their work is going to be cut off, because if the people they're interlocuting with just turn around and say, but look, the opposition in your country, you're sort of passing this off as a massive success, etc., etc., you're exposing Pakistan. But the opposition itself says you haven't captured the Pahalgam attackers, so you don't quite know if Pakistan is behind them. Thirdly, therefore, it's questionable whether you should have actually taken the kind of action you did against Pakistan. Did you jump the gun? And then, from there follows on to all these other questions, whether it was a declared or undeclared military victory, etc., etc. Do you think that's going to hamper?
Look,
communication?
at one level, it's a good thing that these questions are being asked in a democracy. Right? These questions are not being asked in Pakistan, and there are legitimate questions to be asked there as well. But it's not being asked there because it's not a democracy. It's certainly not a functioning democracy. So I think it's good to ask some of these questions. But the problem is, again, I come back to, you have to be mindful of how that can be construed by the other side. And not just the other side, as you said, some of these parliamentary delegations may also be asked questions by members of parliament or their counterparts and colleagues in these countries that they're going to. India, let's face it, I mean, I wouldn't say that this is some kind of diplomatic damage control, but certainly India needs to do more to win the narrative war. I think that's very, very clear in the aftermath of what happened in Operation Sindoor. I mean, we may have won the battle on the field. We certainly did. But in terms of capturing the narrative, certainly we can do much more. And I think sending these parliamentary delegations is an attempt to try and correct some of the misperceptions in global capitals, in Washington, in London, Paris, etc. That look, you can't equate the victim and the perpetrator when it comes to terror. I mean, what India did was in response to Pahalgam. This is not India escalating. It was Pakistan that chose to escalate. And I think those delegations will have their work cut out. Whether or not they will be asked, your leader of the opposition is saying that the external affairs minister gave it away to Pakistan, or the leader of the main opposition party is saying that this was a trivial operation. Well, I guess some of these questions will come up. After all, those countries are also democracies. I mean, they will also ask these questions.
Yeah, and one wonders whether we will therefore be able to achieve the ends that we are setting out to achieve. Because fundamentally, we already know that a large number of countries sort of sat on the fence, which many people say is a limitation, really, of India's ability or persuasive powers to get public opinion across global capitals behind it. So there is that of course problem, but apprehension also, I suppose. Very quickly, Dr. Jaishankar is also sort of doing his own meetings. He's been overnight in The Hague, obviously trying to ensure that India's point of view and the legalese behind a large number of decisions that have been taken is well advertised to minds at Hague. Do you see that as an important...
No, so also the other thing, Rahul, is India is at a disadvantage because India is not a part of the non-permanent members of the Security Council right now. Pakistan is. And I believe Pakistan will have an extended tenure, maybe till the end of the year, maybe even longer than that. So they are inside the room when these conversations are happening at the UNSC. India will have to depend on its partners and friends and allies. So if you look at these parliamentary delegations, in addition to wherever the minister is also going, a lot of them are going to these smaller countries. Slovenia, for example, it's going to be one of the newer members later on this year as part of the UNSC rotating non-permanent members. So I think India really needs to sort of do a lot more lobbying, get its friends and partners and influence them and try and get those folks to put India's point of view forth in the closed door meetings of the UN Security Council, because Pakistan is a foot in the door there. We don't have a foot in the door there yet.
How significant is really the UN? I think we just have about 30 seconds more. How significant is validation, let's put it like that, from the UNSC?
Well, look, if we're going to take the TRF, the Resistance Front, which is the terror organization behind Pahalgam, and get the 1267 Sanctions Committee to proscribe it, then we can do with all the help that we can get.
Absolutely. So, viewers, interesting days ahead. Most of these delegations begin their work from actually tomorrow night. So, we'll be getting you, of course, wall-to-wall coverage of those meetings. There are going to be a huge string, apparently also media interactions between Indian members of parliament and the international press. It'll be very interesting to see the line of questioning, of course, our responses. Let me quickly go straight across to Plain Speak with Poonam Burde.
Good evening, you're watching Plain Speak with me, Poonam Burde. In the aftermath of Operation Sindoor, a united opposition stood with the government to send a message to the enemy, to Pakistan. But that seems to be short-lived. Congress is leading the attack on the central government, particularly targeting External Affairs Minister S. Shankar. There are barbs that are being traded, there are memes that are being shared on social media, there's also a defamation suit that is being threatened by the Congress party. It's a Mir Jafar versus Jaychand narrative that seems to be playing out, at least on social media. Add to that the comments that are coming to the fore from Leader of Opposition in the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi, or the Congress's Chief Mallikarjun Kharge, or even former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti. And I'll take you through those comments in just a bit. But the question we want to ask here, and the question that many in India are asking, is that are these leaders giving ammunition to the enemy, to Pakistan, with these kind of comments? Yes, we live in a democracy and we have the right to free speech, so do all of these leaders. But there is a time and place to ask these questions. If these questions are helping Pakistan wage a war of fakery and propaganda in the digital sphere, then should these leaders not practice restraint, to say the very least? Here's what transpired in the last few days, the kind of comments that have come to the fore. After our armed forces struck Pakistan air bases and military installations, opposition leaders, barring a few, said that they stand with the government.